Welcome back to our live training session here with our Honda EP3 Civic. Now, in this training module, we're going to be taking a look at getting the engine to fire up and run, go through our basic sensor check, make sure all of our inputs look good, the outputs are actually functional and working. We're going to be checking our timing with a timing light, verifying that we have our ref sync dialed in, and then we're also going to be taking a look at just getting the idle control worked out and charge cooling tuning and turning on our closed loop lambda correction. So just at the end of the tutorial, we can make sure the engine can crank, fire and run, and maintain and hold its own idle. That's the goal, to be able to move on to doing part throttle tuning and then into full throttle tuning. So let's first take the file that we've built in the last two training modules, our base file, and let's go ahead and upload it into our Motec M1, and then we'll start to do our sensor check, looking at the inputs and outputs, and then we'll move on to checking our timing under cranking. We'll get the engine to fire up, check the timing with it running, down the idle control, charge cooling, closed loop, all the additional things we need to take a look at here to be able to get this process completed. All right, let's jump in, taking a look here at my M1 Tune software. We can find right now I'm key on engine off, sitting in the vehicle. We can see I have the Ethernet cable plugged into my laptop, plugged into the Motec. We're gonna find I have one ECU discovered, so it is recognizing my M150 here. What I'm going to do is jump up to the top under File and then Send. It's going to send the file I have open here. And we can see right here, that's the serial number, and that's going to be the device we're going to be working with here. Click OK. And it's going to go ahead and upload this file that we've built into the Motec. And it's going to take a second here, so let it complete that process. And as soon as that completes, we're going to be taking a look at our data here. Okay, so we should be online. We can see we're connected right now. And then let's jump up here to our fuel tuning and start to take a look at a few things. Let's look at our basic sensor data. So looking at the top here, we have our inlet manifold pressure. This is showing 100 kPa. Now this is showing 100 kPa. It's an estimated value coming from estimate table that we need to dial in, actually tune here, working the alpha N strategy. So right now, this is fine because it's a calculator simulated amount. Looking here, it's going a little bit more. Ambient pressure showing 101.7 kPa. That's likely to be an estimated value simply because we do not have a barrel pressure sensor on board on the vehicle. Now that's something I definitely would recommend that you add when you're doing alpha N ITBs. I just haven't had a chance to wire that into the Motec, but I would be recommending putting an actual ambient pressure sensor. 1 bar would be fine for a map pressure sensor to be able to look at your barrel pressure. Throttle position here. Now we haven't calibrated this. We need to do that. We're going to be going through that here, but we'll find that it's going to hopefully show us a sweep here. Now we're finding, if we're going back and forth, I'm not seeing that it's picking up anything. This could be a configuration issue. Just could be something as simple as the actual min and max capture haven't been done yet, so we're not actually broadcasting anything on the channel. So I'm not going to panic yet. Coolant temperature showing 9.7 degrees Celsius. And what I like to look for here is what the air temperature is showing. Now the intake air temp showing 35 degrees Celsius. So there could be something wrong with the air temp circuit. We're gonna have to go and look at that because this should be close to the coolant temperature. So we're gonna have to resolve that. So a couple things we need to go and take a look at here. Battery voltage we see is 12.3, 12.4. That looks good. In this case, the battery has been on a charger overnight. So I always make sure that the battery is up on charge before I even try to fire it off. Going down through a couple additional things, we do see the fuel pressure is reading. It's showing 288.5 kPa right now. We're going to be testing the actual output from our fuel pump, and we can actually figure out what the base pressure is going to be at within our returnless style system, what the fixed regulated amount is going to be. We actually have to put that into the fuel pressure estimate in order to have the correct base pressure referenced. That's important in case if our fuel pressure sensor fails. We'll talk about that here in a little bit. We see fuel composition sensor showing 23.4% ethanol content in the system. Now there is probably a little bit of blend in here, and that's why I have that flex fuel sensor. We're not doing an actual flex fuel tune, and this is likely to come down. The last training tutorial doing the drive-by-wire K24 example with a Motec M150, I was utilizing on this particular vehicle flex fuel tuning. I drained out all the ethanol and I put in petrol fuel. So right now we're about half tank petrol. There might be a little bit of ethanol in the tank still, and that's why we see a little bit of a blend here. So not a big deal. All right, so everything else in here looks pretty normal. Let's jump in and let's take a look. Let's address the throttle position. If we go here under our basic inputs and we jump down, we're seeing throttle position is showing a high fault. So looking here, if we go in, let's actually try to use the offset and scale here, so if we can get it to work. So I'm off the throttle. If I click Q, we can see here it's going to put a value. If I go all the way on the throttle, click, oh, let's try that again here. Click Q when I'm off the throttle, and then go all the way on our scale here, go all the way full throttle, and click Q, and now it should register and read. So let's go ahead and reset and save that to the ECU. We can see it's actually going to be working now. So throttle position sensor is showing here approximately 0.2%, and if I get on the throttle, it is detecting my actual throttle movement. So the reason that wasn't working was simply because we haven't set the offset and scale. It's easy as just going in off throttle, clicking Q, go all the way full throttle, click Q for the scale, sets those values, and now it's registering and reading. So simple for a cable-driven throttle body. Now, let's look here at the air temp sensor. So we've put this on analog voltage input 2. It is a Delphi sensor, and we are getting an error here. Looking at this, it's showing me that it was going to the sensor default because it's inlet manifold pressure mode. That's estimate. Yeah, so it should be working here. The coolant temperature is working, so therefore the actual air temp should work because the coolant temp's on into input 1. The air temp should be on input 2, so we may have to resolve this. Let's go back in here and just look real quick. Let's go into tuning. Let's just go back over here into inlet air temp. Yeah, it's showing 35 degrees Celsius. Let me just see if it's on another input. I don't think it is. Here's the issue. I set it on analog voltage input, not analog temperature input, so I made a mistake there when I was assigning it. All right, that's why it's not reading. Let's grab analog temperature input 2. Click OK here. Let's update the Motec, and that should work now. We should see the coolant and air temp sensors are the same temperature on a cold engine like this. So taking a look back here, we're now finding the inlet air temperature showing about 18 degrees Celsius, and the coolant temperature showing here about 10 degrees Celsius. That's a pretty large difference between these two. I'm surprised there's that much of a difference. So that either means there's a calibration problem with our inlet temperature, or there's a calibration problem with the cooling scale. Now, I've used the coolant temp scale before, and I know that's accurate, and I'm using the inlet air temperature scale from Motec because we've set it.
Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here, and you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.